Now then. Welcome back to the channel. Hope everybody is doing well. Ryan says, get on, Steve. I'm on lunch. What are you having for lunch? I don't know what I'm going to have for lunch today. I might take Janine out. Joy, I've not been for a bit. Ramona. Anyone know where Ramona is? If you don't, Google it. It's fucking belted. Some of the best pizza that you'll get in Manchester. And it's not just about the pizza. The tater tots are fucking superb. Anyway, so let's talk about Casemiro. This has moved along reet fast. Now, I've been on various bits of content, and yesterday I spoke to Joe, and my only reservation about Casemiro is the price, really. If he was 20 million, I'd be chopper out, right? 70 million is a lot, and it's a lot because I just don't believe in this club to be able to invest in more than one major signing in a window. So all of our money getting spunked on him when, am I next in line to play up front is a little bit of a worry. But apart from that, in terms of Casemiro himself, pretty happy with what we're getting. And even if it does seem like we're trying to build the 2014 Real Madrid Champions League winning side. Right, let's talk about what's going on then. So Romano this morning on Twitter said United are working to get the Casemiro deal approved in the next few hours. Medical expected within 48 hours once Real Madrid approve the proposal. 4-year deal for Casemiro with the option of another season also confirmed. 60 million euros with 10 million in add-ons on the table. Now, I always say, don't know, when you start hearing the length of the contract, this is when it's real. And it's real. Right now it's real. I would assume this is... there was talk, wasn't there, that they wanted to get a deal done by the Liverpool game, potentially, to chill some protests out. And, it shouldn't kill the protests, but in their head, maybe it does. The Athletic on Twitter are saying United are close to signing Casemiro on a deal worth an initial 60 million euros, 51 million pound, same money as Fred, interestingly. As Erik Ten Hag looks to strengthen the midfield. Personal terms have been agreed according to the formerly great local newspaper, now disreputable online blog. So what are the positives of this move? What is the case for bringing Casemiro in case you've been under a rock for the last decade? He brings experience. Yes, he's 30, and United haven't got a great track record of bringing in players over or near 30 in the last decade, but he absolutely brings in some experience, and especially if you've got an eye on Charlie Savage, Zidane Iqbal, maybe even Jimmy Garner, developing into something, having a good player like this around, not necessarily the worst thing. We've lost a lot of experience. If Varane can play more regularly, that'll be a big positive for us. But having Casemiro in the middle of the park, he is a leader. He does bring experience. Players like Rashford are currently considered experienced just because of appearances, but he is still a young player and arguably needs more experience around and above him, leading him in games. Casemiro's probably at the tail end of, but still inside his prime. At 30, he's been at Real Madrid since 2013. That's 9 very successful years. And during that time, he has won 3 league titles, 5 Champions Leagues, Copa del Rey, and 3 World Club Cups, which is mental. It's very similar sort of stuff to what Varane's got. He is an experienced winner. And the more of those we have in the squad, generally, the better. In terms of his ability, he is elite. He breaks up play fantastically. He's got a great work ethic. He's pretty quick over the ground. And in terms of his ability, I went and had a look at the stats on FBref. And out of the 10 players most statistically like him in terms of his game, Fred and McTominay were 2 of the 10 most like him. And to be honest, that's not necessarily a negative. Fred and McTominay do have good defensive qualities. The problem is that both of them are poor in possession. And you can't say that about Casemiro. He is far more composed, far more ability on the ball. He's got a range of passing. He can take the ball under pressure. He's just a much better footballer. You can imagine him winning the ball back, playing a sensible forward pass into another midfielder, Bruno, Eriksson, for them to take the ball up the pitch and for us to get going. His short and long passing range game is brilliant. It's top tier. And it's just something McTominay and Fred don't have. So even if defensively, because that's where a lot of the stats are similar in the number of interceptions, tackles, blocks per game, what he does in possession, even though he's not exactly a goal or an assist merchant, what he does in possession in terms of moving the ball effectively through the thirds with intelligent selected passes, it is a massive levelling up on what we've got at the club. In terms of the work rate, obviously McTominay and Fred, they have good work rate, but Casemiro's got that as well. This isn't a downgrade in any sense of what they do. And he's actually very good in the air as well. I'm not sure how tall he is, but he is actually very good in the air, wins a lot in the air. So aside from the transfer value and how little that leaves in the kitty, it's pretty risk-free. He brings a level of experience. He levels up the quality in midfield. It's just how long left of this player do we get? Is it 1 year? Is it 2 years? Is it 3 years? Is it 4 years? I'm pretty sure it's 1 year at least. Is it a Robin Van Persie style sort of swan song for him? The nature of the player that he is, being a bit of a bulldog in midfield, I think he'll suit the Premier League fantastically. It might take him some time to adapt. I'm very excited to see the combination play between him and Rafael Varane. They've played together for years. I would imagine there's some sort of link up there that we can take advantage of, knowing each other's movements, and I think that would be a big positive for United as we get them into the team. But yeah, overall, pretty positive sort of situation when it comes to bringing in Casemiro. The only slight downside for me is the price and what that does to the rest of the recruitment. We need a striker. It looks like we need another winger. Blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, I think that's the one. There we go. So, I mean, what you guys saying in the comments, sort of super chat there, let me just find that. John McCurry says, the pros and cons to this signing, a broken clock is right twice a day. That's my level of confidence in it. Jesus. Bob says, best DM since Keane. I think at one point he was certainly the best defensive midfielder in the world. He's still in probably the top 5, I would think. But yeah, he's still a hell of a signing for us. BM says us United fans never learn. He's coming for the stupid wage. That might be the case. Yeah, that's got to go in the downsides as well. Ed C says there's no denying the quality. He might not be at his peak, but for 60 million and a 4+1 deal, this feels like Matic 2.0. It does, and there was some good times out of Matic. I think he's got a bit more in the tank than Matic does. Not loads more, but I think he's got a bit more. Pinky Pearl says Casemiro has passed his best. Brett says Tielemans to partner him. I think that would be a huge upgrade in the middle of the park. Yeah, same. I don't know how much you're going to get him for, but same. Shazeb says, am I not worried he won't suit Ten Hag's style of high pressing? When does your number 6 really press? Your number 6 is the most passive player in a high pressing team. Your centre halves and your fullbacks are actively trying to squeeze up the pitch. The 6 is kind of protected by them around him a little bit. He's the sort of last line of defence, so he's always fairly passive in attack. Your 8, your 10, your forwards, they're the ones that are actively trying to chase people down. You don't really want to see your 6 getting dragged out into mad positions. But if you look at where Casemiro makes a lot of his challenges and blocks and interceptions, he actually makes them in sort of fullback sort of areas. He covers, as a number 6, he sort of screens the entire back four, not just the 2 centre halves. You're not going to ask this guy to press. I think he'll be fine. Brian says if Casemiro is even half the player he was at Madrid, he's still 10 times better than McTominay. I will agree. What will our midfield look like? Now, if it's Eriksson, Casemiro, Bruno, that's not bad. But I still think you need a little bit more energy in it. If we could bring in a Tielemans or a Milinkovic-Savic to go alongside Casemiro and Bruno, now you're talking about a really good midfield. But yeah, I'm not sure. Willie says Casemiro will bring calmness in the middle of the park. I agree. And that's going to help. YouTube commenter says Eriksson and Bruno won't work together. I disagree. You're entitled to your opinion, but I just disagree. Can we play one of the pivot with Casemiro? I think we'll still try and play two with the 8 being a bit more of a shuttler. Matthew says Casemiro will be only good for a few years and only if we get a progressive deep line playmaker next to him. Don't think that will happen, unfortunately. That might be Eriksen. Varspeak says Casemiro for captain. For me, no. I do like what Real Madrid do in terms of like your most cap player is the one that gets the armband, and I don't really agree with giving brand new players the armband. Although that might be something that happens at Paddock in the very near future, but you'll understand why when you see who it is that's been brought in. Virgil says, does chasing De Jong all year, then getting Casemiro, who is completely different style of 6, show an absolute lack of a plan? Maybe in a way, yeah, but I think that they really, 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 really wanted Frankie De Jong, and I think the option of going in without anybody was too great of a risk that they just didn't want to fuck with. But yeah, by and large, I tend to agree with that. Zaye says Fred and Casemiro works well for Brazil. The problem is international football is garbage, so let's not pin anything on what happens in international football. Harry Maguire looks great internationally, and so does Luke Shaw. And you know what I'm saying? Yep. Notch says we're going from buying 34-year-olds to buying 30-year-olds. This is progress. I mean, yeah, technically, yes, it is. Leanne says we should still get Frankie to play alongside Casemiro. I don't know what level you're playing Footy Manager on, but it ain't the real one. This signals the end of us signing Frankie De Jong. Literally. Like, if we sign Casemiro, we will not sign Frankie De Jong. If we do, I will get a Frankie De Jong tattoo. That's how confident I am that I don't think that's going to happen. Peter Knight says, what's this about Jones playing midfield against the Scousers? Which fucking lunatic said that? If Phil Jones plays against the Scousers, I'm taking my boots. Byhag says, Liverpool are linked with Sanderberg. Why not at United? Don't know. Ihab says we really need Savic. I agree. I think Savic is made for the Premier League, and I think he could become a cult hero at United. Zaye says Zidane and Savic at least need to be second choice and given a chance to develop. Play them in the Europa League. I don't think you'd be disappointed. Killera says, is Milinkovic-Savic coming this summer window? This is where I'm conflicted. I think he's a very different player to Casemiro, but I will be shocked if we sign Milinkovic-Savic and Casemiro. Shocked. Genuinely shocked. Gox says Ancelotti has just confirmed it. Yeah, I think this one's done. I think this one's all but done now. Casemiro is a warrior, says Adam. Jordan says, think this means Garner can play higher up the pitch like he did at Forest. Yeah, probably more of an 8 than a 10, but yes. And I want to see him getting minutes, man. I mean, the thing is, what's Casemiro's injury record like? I think he's missed 18 games in 9 years. It's pretty good. And I think 13 of those at one time when he broke something. How is Casemiro's English? Better than my Portuguese, I imagine. Pre says, I frankly don't understand why people are bringing up money, but I'd rather the Glazers keep it for themselves. No, I don't think that's what people are bringing the money up for. They're bringing up the money because we know there's not an infinite money pit. And we know that United probably need 4 or 5 signings still on top of this, right? And if you blow 70 million on him, there's nothing left in the pot. Why we're not still looking at the likes of Belotti and some of the other free transfers, I don't fucking know. It's crazy to me. You're going to have to sign some more free transfers to get a squad for this season. Osama says, with Casemiro potentially signing, does Fernandes, who is off form, or Eriksen play? It gives us options, and that's what we like, isn't it? I like the fact that you get options. Previously, when Bruno's just plays, whether he's shit or not, that's not good. You want to have options. You want to be able to say, listen, you don't have a fucking better second half, you ain't playing the next game because Eriksen's going to get a shirt. That's good. That's a positive thing for the coach. Yanni says, I like the mitten chat about Casemiro being a tactical geek, future coach. That might be a real positive for Ten Hag signing him then, because if he's a tactical geek and he buys into what Ten Hag's trying to do, then you've got somebody on the pitch that's trying to implement that stuff, and that's a huge positive. Poison says, bring back Scholes and Beckham and Casemiro. Scholes is in his 40s. Hostad says, free transfers don't make sense unless they're over the age of 32, in our case. Yeah. Michael says, Ronaldo needs to be captain now. Varane, Casemiro himself, Bruno, Fred, all have 6 degrees of separation. Yeah, but again, do you want to put your money on Ronaldo, who said it? It's a weird way to reward someone who's tried to leave all summer. It's to be like, right, you didn't leave because no one wanted you. Here's the armband. Not sure about that one myself. Who's next? A striker or an Anthony? Says Oka. Personally, I would go with a striker, and I like the profile of strikers that we've been looking at in terms of like either a target man or a pressing one. I think that's a real positive for us. Ahmed says Casemiro can teach some of these youngsters, including Zidane, Savage, and Garner. Yes, I agree on that. Chetan says, do I believe United has become a retirement club for players who have lost their peak? It looks a little bit like that, doesn't it? You got to admit, it does look a little bit like that. Mehul says, Maguire cannot and should not play now we've signed Casemiro. I think Casemiro, Martinez, and Varane is a powerful little triangle right in front of the goalkeeper. Yeah. Sean says, if no Anthony, then that money can go on Frankie de Jong. What's the big deal? Here's the thing. I just, like, John, you saw the tweet saying United are interested in fucking Felix for 130 million. And I was like, yeah, are we though? No, we're not, are we? Let's be honest. Tom says Casemiro captain has to be. Don't think so. I don't necessarily disagree with your reasoning. I just don't think he will be. Verspeak says Dortmund are flirting with Ronaldo, so hopefully they'll give him a way out. Short-term replacement for Haller. Interesting if Dortmund go for him. I think Ronaldo kills it in Germany, by the way. I think he absolutely fucking kills it. Would I take Depay as backup? No. Why does everyone want Depay back? Jesus. Hostad says, one manager I would have loved would have been Ancelotti. I wanted Ancelotti when Fergie went. Ancelotti or Mourinho immediately when Fergie went, and I think they win something with that squad. Because I think the way they manage. But yeah, it's fucked it, and it was a decade ago now, so as you were. Verspeak says gives him another league to conquer. Yes, it does. Have United got any sniff for Bellingham? Bellingham's going to cost you over 100 million. So whoever goes in for Bellingham is going in for it in a big way. And I think he's a very, very good player, very good number 8. And I think he's definitely on United's list. But, you know, for 100 million signing Bellingham, or if you could have spent 70, 80 million and signed like another midfielder and a Tielemans maybe, does that leave your squad in a better place? Do you know what I mean? I wish we used our brains a little bit more. David says, is it the end of Ghana then? Not yet. Not yet, I would say. People thinking Bellingham might be Liverpool bound. Could be. Makes a lot of sense for them to go for someone of that sort of profile. And when your team's clicking the way it is at Liverpool and like even at City, you can go and spend 100 million on a single player because you're just fixing little things. Manchester United, as Ralph said, Manchester United need open surgery. So Manchester United spending 100 million on a single player at the minute is fucking mental. Manchester United need to level up 6 or 7 different positions, and you can't do that with £100 million signings. I mean, you can literally level them up, but you'll level up right back if you spend 100 million on it, probably, right? But it's not going to impact the team. You need to make 4 or 5 more signings. That's what you got to do. Whether we can do that or what, I don't know. Manan says, my 2 cents on Carrasco or Dest. Again, what's the profile that we're looking at with those? Dest maybe, but not sure on Carrasco. Stockton says, would I approve of a more pragmatic and mid-block approach for the immediate future? Clearly, we're not capable of the way Ten Hag wants to play. Mid-block maybe. Mid-block's a weird one to pull off because I almost think sometimes you can never truly pull off a mid-block because it's not as I think you almost have to go low block or high block, and I don't think that mid one really works. I think it's very difficult to pull off, and if you're not capable of pulling off the high press, which is all very obvious what you'd need to do, then the mid block, which needs a lot more thought, I think that's probably going to be hard for you to put together. Bruno says Tillman next to Casemiro and Fernandes would be dope. Agree. Chris says buying a 30-year-old for 60 million with no resale value makes 0 sense. It's wasting money, and he won't even play Monday night. That is my only reservation on it. Palmera says mid block would be Maguire suicide. The fucking high block is as well. Byhag says why not Patrick Schick for a striker, left-footed, something different to our forwards. There is so many options, and we're linked with loads of them as well. Malo Gusto, just saw, has got linked to him. If you want to see the scout report we did, have a look at this right back for United that I did. I might actually change the name on there. Galari says, honestly don't see Garner's potential compared to Zidane or Savage. I'm not pressed about him leaving. Mate, go and just fucking watch some of the stuff he did at Forest. Jesus. In a very, very difficult league. If you're impressed by what players have done on pre-season but not impressed with what someone did over 49 games in the Championship, I don't know what to say. Baratori says, do I think Martinez has a future centre-back partnership, or would he be playing in another position? Yeah, I think he's playing at centre-half. Phil says, Steve, you said you wouldn't be part of United's recruitment team a while back. What if Jim Ratcliffe takes the team? I said it because no one's making that call. Look, we might find some interesting players as a fucking YouTube channel, but like, let's be serious here. If Manchester United are turning to YouTubers, we are double fucked. You know, there's some serious experienced and talented people in the mixer that they need to be hiring before they even think about YouTubers. Like, I would expect a really badly run club to do that. Everybody Jay says your bias for Garner is ridiculous. This is a player that's primed, done everything asked of him to be given an opportunity, and he hasn't been given the opportunity. Why do you want him gone? Makes no sense. For the money talked about, he's worth at least 3 times the money that is being talked about. Sig says, why do you care about the money, Glazer's money? I've said this loads of times. Because I don't trust them to invest more money. There is a pot. Whatever's in that pot is going to be lowered by us signing this. It's not like they're going to sign this guy and then we're going to keep signing players. If we sign Casemiro, that might be it. And that's not enough. So if it was a choice of sign Casemiro for 60, 70 million or sign 2 players for 35, I think I'd rather go with the 2 players for 35. Do you know what I mean? Because we need the 2 players. I really need 3 or 4, maybe more. Sam says, people don't realise how good Garner is. Levels above Scott in terms of football ability. Totally agree. Sam says, easy stay. Have I heard anything about Savage? Nothing. Manan says, Steve, you highlighted our major problem is individual errors. How do I reckon Ten Hag can solve that? Fuck knows. If I could fucking solve that, I'd solve Paddock getting beat 4-0 back-to-back on individual errors. 2 fucking weekends on a bounce, wouldn't I? So this is why I do a lot of what I do with the football team, is because it's me trying to learn as well. And the bullshit that I come out with on here, I have to put into practice for reals on a training ground a couple of nights a week and then on a touchline on a weekend. You know, I'm trying to put my money where my mouth is. If I think something's works, then I'll try it and I'll fucking see what it works like. And yeah, when individual errors are costing us goals, I got to figure that out. I have to figure that out because that's how we're fucking losing games at the moment. So if I figure it out, I'll let you know. We did a bleep test with him this week and it seemed like a really good fucking team spirit of everybody. Dan says, everyone makes mistakes as long as they sort it. That's a big part, yeah. As long as they don't repeat mistakes, I don't really care. Like, you're going to make mistakes. Don't make the same mistake twice. Bob says, disagree. At this club, we just pitter-patter buying 40 million player after 40 million player like Lindelof, Fred, Bailly. Just drop the big fee and sort the problem. Ah, yes, like Maguire. Galari says, Steve, who would I rather have between Diaby and Anthony? I like Diaby's directness. I think they're both imperfect for the money that's being talked about them, to be honest. Ari says, Casemiro is younger than De Bruyne, Van Dijk, Mahrez, Gundogan, Thiago, Henderson, Koulibaly. Okay. And I would argue all of those have probably seen their best years behind them. So what's your point? Who's the worst footballer in the office? Janine or Sophie, probably. King Israel says, we could have gotten Neves and Tillman for 70, 80 million. There you go. More things boxed off. Tom Greenwell says, the Mirror now trying to discredit Jim Radcliffe with absolute dribble. The PR game for ownership is fascinating, isn't it? Absolutely fascinating. Hostad says, what happened to Pete Burns at Paddock? He's had some family stuff to deal with. ZA says, Rashford out, Anthony in. What do I think? I think Rashford will come good this year. Who says Neves is overhyped? I think you're overhyped. I think Neves is a fucking baller, mate. Yvonne Gibbons says, Steve Ten Hag needs to make the changes on Monday night, give the usual culprits a go. And they've shat it in the bin like they did all last season. Who would my dream five-a-side be? Defender, Maldini. Keeper, Van der Sar. Scholes in midfield. A dribbler in midfield, I think, maybe as well. We've got a pass, I think we need a dribbler. Oh, has there ever been a better dribbler than Ronaldinho? It's at Ronaldinho. And then a goal scorer. Rude. Neil says, do I see Casemiro playing the Liverpool game? For him to play in the Liverpool game, I think he has to be registered 24 hours before. And if he only gets registered tomorrow, like, he's not going to have trained with us. I think it's a bit mad to pick him. I'd maybe have him on the bench, but I could see him probably not being involved, to be honest. Jarvis says, Zidane a better dribbler. I'd love to know who done Zidane's PR. No, R9, yeah, I probably would have R9 in all honesty. But Rude was such a fucking goal machine. R9, I can imagine R9 being a nightmare at five-a-side, to be fair. I can imagine him. Scotty says visa issue. That's probably real, isn't it? R Block says Martinez, Varane, Casemiro, Bailly for the main option. Maguire needs to be sold. I'm not reading the last part of your comment. Nehul says Garner would learn so much from Casemiro if we didn't sell him. Yeah, I agree. Dubani says, I'd like to see Casemiro in a United shirt, then I'll believe it. It's going to happen, this one, I think. It's going to happen. Like I said, no inside information on it, but just everything adds up. Amazing Gumball said, is no one worried that he might be injury prone considering he's 30 and playing in the Premier League? Well, how can you be injury prone if you've had basically no injuries? Chris says, top players do not want to come to United anymore. We have to accept that. I mean, I don't necessarily think that's the case. Ishmael says, what about De Jong? I think that's gone. Baseman says, Maradona, best dribbler. I mean, yeah, he was pretty good on it, let's be honest. Zaya says, United need to improve fitness coaching and bring it to City Liverpool levels. Feel good, then you play good. Yeah, there's probably something in that, to be honest. And I did see a load of people kicking off, sports science types kicking off about Ten Hag making them run 13.8 kilometres on the Sunday following a game. But as much as there's probably some truth in that, right, in terms of the sports science stuff. I mean, I spoke to Rio about, I think we spoke about this off air when I was down in London the other week, and I was talking about player fitness and sometimes the sports science and that. And he would say when he was training at United, there'd be sports scientists standing on the side of the pitch, and they'd be like, "Oh, Rio's just gone into the red zone," and they would tell the manager, and the manager would take him out of training, and he would just stand there on the sideline, frustrated. And I guess that team was fucking successful. You can't necessarily knock what they did at the time, but I also believe, and maybe this is a military mindset, I also believe you can push yourself so much further than what your fucking smartphone and watch is telling you. And I think that's where a lot of mental resilience comes from, is pushing into the places you didn't know you could take yourself, and going again when you're tired. And yes, elite performance and the military are not necessarily aligned. Mindsets could be at times. And I think certainly in the back end of a season, when you've got game after game after game after game, yeah, you're probably going to start being in the red zone, and recoveries are going to start to be more difficult. But I think a lot of that there is how you're able to push through comes a lot through your mindset. Like, if you look at some of United's most successful periods, it comes from fighting on multiple fronts at the same time. Sports science will tell you that performance should have dipped in those times, but it didn't. And actually, United looked like they rose to the occasion. And is that because we were mentally prepared correctly? Is that because we pushed ourselves with scenario training in training? Is that because we worked ourselves beyond? What you hear about from Cantona onwards at the club about people who... from Cantona onwards at the club, when people push and do extras, it only ever seems to have been a positive. You don't hear loads about people doing extras and being shit, do you? Like, Cantona started the trend with extras. Cristiano Ronaldo took it to a different level. Like, Ronaldo, according to all sports science, should be fucked and never recovered. Yet at 37 years of age, he's still effective in games. Now, okay, he might be not necessarily suited to what we're trying to do at the moment, but you've got to think he's been pretty fucking successful in his career, hasn't he? And the physique on him and the conditioning of him certainly hasn't, or his work ethic hasn't shortened his career, which is what sports science might tell you. Him working himself the way he's worked himself has probably been a net positive on what he does as a player. Saul says, I think it helped having 2 players per position under Fergie at most times. Yeah, but some of those backups were not good. They were way off and way down. Eyes Wide Open says, Steve, Real Madrid wouldn't be selling him if they didn't think it was worth it. Look how they've kept Luka Modric. I think Real Madrid are taking you for a mug. I think there's something in that. I also think like they got like Tchouaméni and Camavinga. I think they probably saw him as on his way out, whether that was now or in a year or two. Poison says Martinez capable of carrying the ball forward. Also, Fred has been playing with Casemiro in that midfield. International football doesn't count. It's shit. Jack says, reckon they will reveal Casemiro, though, the way they did Varane, try and keep the noise down around the owners. Yes, I think that'll probably be something they might do. Bex did extras too, says Ed T. Wesley says Shaw has extras in the canteen. It's rude. OK says Sasha Lenz, sports psychologist, was appointed by Ralph. He knew the player's mentality crumbled. Ten Hag should have taken consultancy from Ralph. He might have done. He might have done, in all honesty. But I think that there is something in the mentality of this United team not being all that great. R Block says, would prefer Gakpo over Anthony just because of the price. Yeah, I'd probably roll with that in a way as well, to be honest. Usman says, where's Axel Tuanzebe? He's been gone since the Oz tour. He was actually at the premiere we went to last week of Nope. It's a good film, by the way. Connor says Casemiro's going to be a good signing, but the fact that we're paying that kind of price and Real Madrid upgraded the midfield with Tchouaméni and Camavinga for around the same, they've bought for the future. We don't do it with our heads, do we? We really don't. Parky says, so it's dangerous for Brentford players to run that far all the space of game. I think he's replying to someone. Adam says, is this planning for the future? I think not. Another plaster despite being a world-class player. That's kind of my thoughts on it as well, yeah. Am I surprised with how quickly this deal has come about? Yes and no, because I think that we are fully in panic station at the moment, and there was a lot of talk, weren't there, at the start of the week that they were going to try and get this deal done before weekend. Do I think Cristiano takes any steroids? I can't say yes, can I? Because that's libelous. I don't, is what I'll say, is I don't believe testing in football is as stringent as it should be. The UFC tested like Premier League tests with a urine sample, and that was known as the steroid era. And then they switched to Olympic style testing, VADA protocols, USADA protocols, where they now take blood, and they take blood over a series of months and years, so they can always refer back to what your makeup of your blood is and the hormone levels in your blood over a certain period of time, so they can actually pinpoint what you were doing at what times. So I think, do I think steroid abuse happens in football? Yes, I do. I couldn't possibly point the finger at which players because I have no inside information on that. I believe steroids are prevalent in every single sport. When I was playing at Salford, when I was 16, I was offered steroids by a first team player, and I was fully in the mode, drugs are for mugs, mate. But it happens, and you go away, you come back for pre-season, and all your 16, 17-year-old mates now have got fucking traps like Arnold Schwarzenegger and spots all over the back, and you're like, oh, put about 2 stone, and what the fuck happened? They're like, oh, I'm just eating chicken 5 times a day. All right. Is the chicken on Trenbolone? What the fuck is going on here? It happens. It absolutely happens. I think they're on HGH. I think they're on EPO. And I think there's probably a lot more things that they're doing. The Dr. Fuentes case with Barcelona and the Spanish national team, if that doesn't tell you, but I don't know what. You could probably do a look at what Pep Guardiola did and how he got away with the nandrolone sample that he had when he was at Empoli, I think it was, in Italy. So, yeah, I believe that there's a lot of footballers that are doing steroids because I don't think the testing is stringent enough to get you caught. And I also don't think that the bans are sufficient. The FA covers up failed drug tests. We know that. That's not a conspiracy theory. We know that they cover them up. Milinkovic Savic news. I have no news. Gavin Davis says growth hormone. Yeah, I think there's a lot. Brian Hughes says Pep caught twice. I don't know if he was caught twice, actually. I know he was caught once. Ed T says PEDs literally dragged Pep through the final years of his career. I'm going to have to say that is your opinion, and I cannot endorse that. Would I rather score for United or give Avram Glazer a good whack in the bollocks with a cricket bat? Whacking him in the bollocks isn't going to get rid of us, so let me fucking top bins one in the Premier League. Santa Notch says if it all got exposed like in other sports, football would be ruined. Like the fact that the UFC is literally called the steroid era, and it was a fun era as well. TRT Vitor, mate. And then just go and look at, just type in Vitor Belfort before and after, or even Alistair Overeem before and after. Alistair Overeem looked like a cartoon man, like literally like the sort of superhero man that you might draw when you was 11. And then after he stopped taking the use, whatever he was taking beforehand, he had like a straight 42-year-old dad bod. It's insane. Yeah, like Alistair Overeem might have had the best body that's ever fucking not walked on a fucking bodybuilding stage. It was unreal. Uberim was fucking sensational. Oh my God. Crunk King says Pride FC was full of steroids. Pride literally had it in their contracts, apparently, that it said, we will not test you for steroids. And if that's not a do all the fucking gear you can you can get your hands on with both hands, I don't fucking know what it is. Verspeak says football hides behind it's a team sport. Steroids don't happen here. It's utter fucking nonsense. If you can run further and faster, more intense than your opponents, we know it is beneficial. We know this. Hostad says thoughts on Klopp saying he was close to phoning TalkSport. I've not seen that. I haven't seen that one. Craig says, have I seen the price of Gibbs White? Yes, and that's why I think Ghana going for 14 million is literally us getting robbed. Pep won his appeal at Brescia, says Emmett. Okay, do I have to pull out the thread? Right, I'll pull out the thread if you want. Let me pull out the thread because I did the work. I'll find the thread for you. Okay, 2 seconds. Here we go. Coming up. Yes, technically he was cleared. Let me just read you out the facts. Okay. In 2001, Pep failed 2 drugs tests. He blamed those failures on his doctor, Dr. Ramon Segura, stating he only ever took what Segura made for him. In 2009, whilst Barcelona manager, he hired the very same doctor that caused him to fail 2 drug tests in 2001. A little bit suspect if you ask me, but you know, that's just one of those. And yes, I am aware that Pep was cleared of the doping charges at a later date, but I looked into it. He wasn't cleared because he didn't do it. He was cleared because of a new ruling which came in 6 years after his test and his ruling. The procedural change occurred because nandrolone, which they found in Pep's urine, could sometimes, in between 1 and 1,000 cases and 1 and 10,000 cases, sometimes those samples become unstable and give a false reading of between 2 and 10 nanograms per milliliter. However, Pep's nandrolone was actually higher than that anyway, at 12 nanograms per milliliter. So on appeal, Pep managed to have his conviction overturned, not because his samples were unstable, but because it is not possible to perform stability tests on samples more than 6 years old. So Pep's conviction was overturned on a technicality. Now, the VADA director, General David Howman, was asked what are the odds that all 4 samples that Pep gave becoming unstable, and he answered, it's a 100 billion to 1 chance. And obviously, if you still want to read up on that, then go and check out the situation with Dr. Fuentes and what happened with Barcelona. And I tweeted that 2 years ago. Nobody has sued me or even threatened to sue me because everything I stated there is entirely factual. And you can look all that stuff up yourself. So, yeah, Pep did not have his conviction overturned because he didn't do it. He had it overturned on a technicality. And Kevin says that's literally insane. Mate, I think they're all at it. My shout about Usyk or Joshua, I think Usyk. I think he's a better boxer. Size could be a difference. Size power is definitely going to be a factor, but I think he's just a better boxer. Technical boxer. The Drake side, the spotty back thing makes so much sense. All the dudes at my local gym have got spotty backs. Honestly, I remember getting changed when I was 16 in the academy dressing room, and one of the lads just had fucking traps and just like a back which looked just insane. Like, mate, I have been in the gym twice a day, every day, all over the summer as I'm 16, and I cannot put weight on. I'm having protein shakes, I'm having creatine, nothing is fucking working. I've put about 4 ounces on. I look like a 12-year-old, and then dudes are coming in just spotty as fuck, and they've just put some serious amount of weight on. And they're just like, oh yeah, I'm having chicken 6 times a day, and I'm having my protein shakes. Like, yeah, I am. What the fuck is going on here? Rugby league's one that's bad for it, I think. Rugby league's definitely one that's bad for it. BM says TalkSport's so bad that even Klopp was defending us. One staff Bulldog says nandrolone is mainly used for joint protection. It's massively used in the NFL too. High recovery from injuries and some injuries over the years that should have finished a player but didn't. Interesting. Yvonne says, would I agree that anyone could take the piss out of Harry Maguire in a six-a-side game on Medlock? He doesn't seem agile enough, does he, to do what we're asking him to do. And I think in a six-a-side pitch, he might be poor. Lee says, would City send players to Barcelona for recovery after injury? Yes, they would. Vile says, I agree, all covered up because the system supports and covers up. It does, yeah. The FA says it's got a zero tolerance to both racism and to abuse of drugs in sport, and literally doesn't. So work that one out. Rahul says, why didn't I ask Nani about Real Madrid red card or that mental keep you up here against Arsenal? To be honest, I find doing the interviews over StreamYard really difficult. There's so many sort of like social cues about who's going to talk and when that you don't quite get over StreamYard. I find doing interviews over StreamYard quite frustrating, actually. But what's cool is Nani's followed us since, and I've been messaging him, and someone actually messaged me and said, why didn't you tell him you thought he was inconsistent? Well, I did. So he's been messaging me since, and I told him. I said, I think you suffered with comparisons when you joined, and was pretty inconsistent. Used to really frustrate me. I said, but what I'd give for a 20-year-old Nani today, you'd be one of our best players. And he's just replied saying, thanks, man, really appreciate your words. So that's mad, isn't it? But yeah, I don't like to sit there and gas someone up if I didn't necessarily feel like that, and I didn't necessarily feel like that. Alex says, nandrolone, trenbolone, TRT, the main ingredients of most athletes in the last 20 years. Fuentes and Fukov, is that a real name? Are the goats of sports medicine. Fadil says, you got a perfect hairline in perfect conditioning. Share your skincare routine. Well, that's how you know I'm not on the gear, because it makes your hair fall out. Look at that. Fucking beautiful hair. Darkside says, I wish how you'd mentioned Nani would turn it on against Arsenal. Must have given Joel nightmares back in the day. Do I reckon Mason was on the juice? Don't think so. I mean, I don't necessarily know if there's an eye test. With some MMA fighters, yeah, it's very obvious. And also, like, I enjoy watching the CrossFit Games, but do you think all them are clean? No fucking way, man. No fucking way are they all clean. None at all. Who's on the brew today? I don't know. Rob says, would Henderson be the ball-playing keeper Ten Hag is looking for? Could be. Joel says, as someone from Melbourne, I'm stoked to see Nani every week. How is he getting on over there? Obviously, I haven't seen any games. How is he getting on? Ed says, the fact he was so inconsistent was my first thought when Nani said he shouldn't need to prove himself to LVG. Yeah, I thought, to be fair, we didn't really have a lot over else that was pushing him, did it, to be honest? So it's one of those. Daniel says, I loved him at Orlando. Past his best, obviously, but was still capable of greatness. You got to think how long ago it was. 14 years ago we signed him. That's bonkers, isn't it? Absolutely nuts. How often do I cut my hair? Every other week. I don't cut it, obviously, but yeah, every other week. Cocky Red says, see you at the Brendan's fight tomorrow night. Yes, you will. I was just chatting with Anthony Crowler, actually, to see if he's coming down, because all the trains are fucked, aren't they? I'm seeing how he's getting down there. I'm going to have to go watch Paddock tomorrow. We're playing at Hyde, if anyone's interested. We're playing at Hyde, and then after that, we've got a fucking drive down, and I'm going to get there just before Brendan's fight. Absolutely fucking mental. There's going to be such a fuck around. These train strikes are absolutely fucking destroying us, man. Absolutely destroying us tomorrow. It'd have been such a leisurely day getting pissed on a train to go down there. But no. Alas, no. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there. But before I go, I've overhauled what's going on with both Patreon and memberships on YouTube. And there is a video in the membership on here. If you want to watch that and want to join the membership and help support the channel. members button down there next to the subscribe button, getting a mixer. The more join, the more that we're going to do with it. It's exactly the same as Patreon, so if you're already a Patreon member, you don't need to do anything. You're still getting the same amount of content. There's extra content coming out, and everything is explained in that video. So go check it out. I think we're probably going to do a vlog of going down and seeing Brendan this weekend. So if you want to check that out and want to see yesterday's video, then go check it out. And if you're coming down to London to watch Brendan fight, bring the fucking noise, because we're hoping he's going to take the win away with him as well. But anyway, cheers for tuning in. As always, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in a bit.